when you do the difficult thing, just one thing a day, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. But if you have that one thing a day that you can tackle and you do this every day, at the end of the year, imagine how many hard things you just did. And that's the thing, like they all add up.
Hello there, it's Rick Nusky and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. I hope you're doing wonderfully well. Just a moment of pause to say thank you for all of the support that you're showing for the show. The feedback on various channels is just amazing, so keep it coming through. I really do appreciate it. Now, on today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming entrepreneur, best-selling author and founder of Scott Allan Publishing, Mr. Scott Allan. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Oh, absolutely. A treat to have you here. Now, you and I will be talking about how to turn a book into a seven-figure business, learn new skills to build your dream business, and how to prevent the lure of shiny object syndrome from ruining your focus and business. Now, that's a big one. But moments prior to the call, we talked about where you're calling in from. You're in Tokyo, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, I'm just outside of Osaka. I've been here for about 25 years.
What do you love about the place?
Well, I just love the culture, the food. I'm from Canada originally, but that's a great place to live as well. But when I came here, I think what I liked and still like about it is that every day just feels like a new adventure to me. So that's one of the things I love about it. The other thing too is just it's very easy to travel. I could be at a station within 10 minutes on one of those bullet trains. I can be in Kyoto in half an hour, and I could be walking through an ancient temple in about an hour from now. And I just love that feeling of like knowing I could just be anywhere at any given day. So it's a lot of freedom.
I'd love to learn more about this part of your life because I think it's great for context. Now, do you own a vehicle over there, or is it such that the transport is that good that you don't need one?
Yeah, I do have a vehicle for sure. But if you live in the bigger cities, you don't need one, but seems like everybody does have a car. However, even if you didn't have one, yeah, if you get to a train station, you're mobile to go anywheres, really. I think it depends where you go, but even within the bigger cities, like they have subways and trains going everywhere, and there's taxis all over the place. So you can certainly get by without one.
My wife has been there, and she said it's just an amazing culture. Obviously, the blooms that happen, that's a big event annually. I'm not sure, but what do you really enjoy over there? Is there something that really sticks out for you after the time that you've lived there?
I think for me, it's just I feel like I'm not just a part of the culture, but I've been here for so long that one of the things I loved about it the most is that no matter where I go, I say I don't really stand out as much as I used to, and I think that's maybe a good thing. Some people, when they come here, they want to get a lot of attention sometimes, and they enjoy the fact that they're in a different culture. And I think back when I first came here, it was a really different time as well. It was interesting. Like it would not be uncommon to be walking down the street and have people just like suddenly stop and look at you and sometimes they'd ask for an autograph, and sometimes they'd run away. So
Love it. I love it.
yeah, but you don't get that anymore. I mean, it's great. I mean, things have opened up, of course, just like anywhere else in the world, I think, depending where you are. But yeah, the other thing that I really love about it is the fact that, now I did work in a corporate business for a long time, running a business school. And then when I transitioned out of that into my publishing business full time, what I love about it is that I can actually still working in a foreign country, working from home, earning, like a good living and doing what I love to do. So
Yeah, it's a win-win situation. Look, and one more thing before we shift gears. So I looked at some images my wife showed me of they have an event there where they wear amazing designer clothes. Do they still do that sort of thing?
They do, yeah. It depends where you go, but they certainly still love to wear a lot of the designer clothes. I think it depends on the age range that you're looking at as well. Now, if you go to Kyoto, a lot of the designer clothes you see, I wouldn't call them designer clothes, but you see a lot of the kimono that's worn by like the geisha and the maiko. So those are really like beautiful, traditional Japanese dresses to see.
So I can only just imagine the group and network of friends that you've been able to build over over the years that you've lived there, Scott. Now, tell me a little bit about culture. Is there any commonalities between, I guess, Western culture and there?
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of the commonalities these days is it is very Western in the sense where we watch a lot of the same TV. Of course, most of the television is in Japanese, but they still love to watch, movies, and there's Starbucks everywhere. When I first moved here in the city that we're in, now I love Starbucks, and I used to love going there every day when I was in Canada. But when I first moved here, they didn't have any of those, and over time they started to pop up everywhere. Now there's like, I can go left or right either way 2 kilometers, and I can probably hit a Starbucks. So.
So I've checked out your Instagram, and we'll be sharing
Mm,
details about how other people can have a look later. But there's some
mm.
incredible photos there. I wonder what inspired you to move there in the first instance.
So going back a few years, probably back about 25, 26 years ago, when I was living in Canada, I was going through I guess, a transition in my life where I wanted to live a different life. And by that I mean that there was nothing wrong with the life I was living. I mean, I was, I had a good job, I had friends and family, and I had a pretty good setup in Vancouver, but I just felt like there was something more that I could be doing with my life, and something deeper was drawing me towards something that required me to do something that I'd never done before. So after some deep self-reflection and reading Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within,
Uh-huh.
Tony said, you've got to come up with your goals, you've got to create a vision board, and you've got to build your own destiny. And I thought, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to do that. So I wrote down my goals. I created a vision board in my little apartment. And within a couple of weeks, I had images all over my walls of places I wanted to travel to. And it wasn't just Japan at the time. That came later. It was more like I just wanted to, go to Thailand, and go to Vietnam, and go to these places that people had always been telling me about. That just, whenever I heard people talk about their travels, I always used to think, like, inside, I would think, that's what I want to do.
What you
And I
want to do.
realized that something just said, you've got to do this thing. So I made a decision to do that. I took a year to plan it out. Now, during that year, I came across an advertisement in the newspaper one day, back when we still had them. And I just opened up the newspaper one day, and right there on that page was this big advertisement that said, "Teach English in Japan, apply now." And that's what I did. And so
Ah,
um, they contacted me several weeks later. I'm in downtown Vancouver having an interview with a Japanese businessman who owned a bunch of business schools in Japan. And they were interviewing like 20, 30, 40 people. And they were only taking 3 people. And I was number 4, actually. And
oh.
so, yeah, so they said, yeah, yeah. So, but here's the thing. Here's where the miracle actually takes place, or what I call the lottery ticket. All right. So I didn't make the cut, but then a week later, they called me up and they said, "Oh, the third guy dropped out, so you're in." And that was
Oh,
it. So what
winning.
they did was, yeah, big win. So they spent what, 6 months just prepping us. They brought us over here, set us up in a homestay with a car, and I suddenly was working half as less, making twice as much money, and I just thought, like, this is living the dream. And every day was, experiencing something new. One day I'd be drinking green tea, the next day I'd be meditating in a Buddhist temple, and I just started making all these friends because I started to pick up on the language really quickly, and that just opened up a whole bunch of other opportunities. So.
So when you made this decision, you were exposed to Tony
Mm,
Robbins's great work, of which I've been involved with myself. He is just a legend. Did you have fear, and how did you pull the
mm.
trigger, as it were, to get on that plane and just get going?
It's interesting. I didn't actually. My biggest fear was actually not coming here and like moving to a different country in a culture where I didn't know the language. I actually found that exciting.
Yeah,
My
right.
fear was the fact that, like, I was afraid that it wasn't going to happen. I was afraid that something was going to happen to get in my way of doing this thing, and that was actually what I feared the most. So I realized, like, I just did everything I could to stay focused. That my focus was to just work in my job, save enough money, and just get to the airplane. And what's interesting is when I got to the airport that day to meet the other, I guess, yeah, the other teachers,
Mhm.
I'd forgotten my passport, of all things. I mean, of all the things that you're going to not forget, like, that's the one
That's
you
the
want to
one.
bring with you, right? Yeah. But here's the thing, miracle number 2 is my friend had realized, my roommate had realized I left it on the counter, and he'd shown up just like 20 minutes before we were going to check in, and he showed up
Oh,
with my passport. And this is back before we had phones, so I had no way
yep.
to get in touch with him, right? So, anyway, it was just all a very fascinating experience and an adventure as well. And but yeah, that's a great question. I do get asked that a lot because it is. I think it appears to be a scary thing, is to, and maybe courageous to just get on a plane and go to someplace. But for me, it was like there was no doubt in my mind that this was the path, like this was the journey, and whatever it was that got me to that point, I just had to keep. I had to tap into that energy and just keep moving forward. So.
You know what? They say that life is not a dress rehearsal. You only get one shot at this. So it's about
Mm,
not leaving anything on the table. What do you say
mm.
for somebody who's sort of teetering on the edge and having doubts about travel? Just do it.
Yeah, well, just do it, but also, I mean, you don't have to have I didn't, to be honest, I didn't really have much of a plan. My plan was to get to the airplane, get
And
to the
go.
country, set myself up, and just see what happens. And, we don't know what the outcome is. And I think that what scares a lot of people is that they try to predict what the outcome is going to, like, what if it doesn't work out? What if this? What if that? Um, we just really don't know. All I can tell you is, my gut instinct was just saying, you've got to do this thing.
Just
And,
got to do it.
whatever the next step's going to be, then we're going to take it one step at a time. So,
So if there was ever anyone who was going to influence somebody like yourself, it
mm.
would be Tony Robbins. Has there been anybody else in your life that has that sort of impact on you?
Yeah, so probably back in the day, I went through, yeah, and actually, in order for me to get to that stage where I could actually get to, a plane and fly to some other place. I mean, years before that, I was going through a lot of addiction recovery for alcohol. So I had a lot of like I had a really good sponsor and a coach and a mentor, somebody who really helped me to get my, my mindset, because my mind was just all over the place. And
Mm.
once I cleaned up and got everything straight, that's when clarity took over. Like clarity was just, I knew exactly what I wanted after I started to think more deeply about what it was really important in my life. So I, that person's name was Dave, and wherever he is, he's out there somewhere. But,
Fantastic. Yep.
it was just like sometimes that's all it takes is one person just to take some time out to spend time with you to help you to get to the next stage that you need in order to keep moving forward. Because, um, the thing is like, we learn from our mentors and coaches. And the thing is that if we learn something from them, we pass it on to somebody else, and then they pass it on to somebody else. And it really becomes like a very powerful chain effect, I think. So
Yeah, look, there's been some great progress made, obviously. Now, tell me, what's a
mm,
daily routine look like for you? Are you an early riser?
I am actually, I get up around 5:30. I'd like to get up a bit earlier, but I'm also, the other flip side to that coin is I like to stay up really late. It's really hard for me to switch off. I'm
A
at the
busy
computer at
mind?
11. Yeah, busy, very busy mind. So I'm at, it's 11 p.m. and I'm working on my computer, working on like the next book project, or I'm working on a course or something. And, I know I should be in bed early because I need to wake up early. And I have to wake up early anyway, because I usually start work at 6 or 6:30. I like starting early and then just trying to, wrap up around lunchtime. So in the morning, I usually do, I do coaching with clients. I work on book stuff, and I usually have most of my day's work done by 12 or 1 p.m. I'll take the afternoon out just to spend some time with, family, friends, maybe, and do meditation. And then I'll work some more in the evening. So I like to take some downtime, and we need that. But once my mind starts moving forward again with a new idea, or I've discovered some kind of new AI app or something, I've just got to go all in and, you know, like figure out like what's everybody raving on about, and I'll get involved in something. And for me, it's always about, I love just figuring ways out, like ways around how to make my business better, how to make my life better, and then how to integrate those two things. So.
So it's like personal development and professional development. Are you dedicated to lifelong learning, do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So I probably spend about, yeah, that's actually one of my part of my daily routine is I spend an hour a day either watching a podcast or reading books. I actually do a combination of both. I'll spend 30 minutes a day reading. Right now, I think I'm reading, what was it? Oh, yeah, Why Not How by Dan Sullivan. Like, that's
Ah,
one of my
Dan
favorite
Sullivan,
books. Yeah,
classic.
yeah, yeah. And I just have a pile of books. So I try to go through one a week, but I do have ADHD as well. So I get scattered all over the place. And
Yep,
sometimes I just
yep,
have to bring it back and remember,
yep.
okay, what's the focus for today? What are the three priorities for today? because I'll get working on something and hours will go by and I'll realize like this wasn't actually a priority, but I'm feeling productive, you know.
So, do you prefer the tactile feel of a book, or are you into audiobooks, or is it a combination for you?
I'm more into audiobooks now. I think because my just the my I don't know, I get tired when I'm reading like
Yes.
is you know, so the audiobooks though, like that's not the only reason, but with the audiobooks, actually I attain you know, I remember the material a lot better when I'm actually listening to it. And so I'll just like, you know, I'll pick a spot on the floor or in the chair and I'll just sit down for 30 or 45 minutes and listen to the audiobook with my eyes closed. And it's just amazing. I love it. So,
It's very interesting feedback. Now, out of all the
mm,
things that you're doing in your business, which we're just about to take a deep dive into, Scott, what's one of the
mm.
things you do best, do you think?
I think the thing that I do best actually is building systems for the business. So I'll give you an example. I'm always looking for ways to produce a product, like create a product that I can put out into the marketplace that's good quality, that didn't cost me $1 million to create. And how can I get this product created, you know, with like a book, for example, right? I'm always looking for ways to make books faster. And that is a combination of now testing a lot of AI apps for that as well. And once I have this system in place, then I'll bring somebody on board, hire them, teach them the system so that they can put it into place. And while they're working on that, I can be over here building something else. So I've always got these systems that I'm testing. I'm always testing something. Okay, I got the result from this test. I build the system for it. I can train someone else on this system. While over here, I maybe, you know, I've got another idea for another business that I want to start building that needs my attention. So
Yeah, it seems to me that your former life as a success strategist still plays a big
mm,
part of your life. Would you say that it's contributing?
I think so for sure. Yeah, I did for my first I don't know, 10 or 15 years here. I was working for a company that what they would do is they would send us out to these, you know, Japanese businesses where I would sit down and walk through, you know, I would teach the executives or the CEO of this company. When they took business trips overseas, how to interact culturally with whether they were going to the US or Europe. And it was really a fascinating job because I got to meet a lot of interesting people, but a lot of them were very, like they were very on point with their focus. Their day was very structured. And I was kind of, at the time, I was not, I was like the opposite of that, you know, but when I saw how they actually were running their business, I was like, wow, I learned a lot from that. And I thought, that's what I'd like to do
It's really
someday,
good.
you know? Yeah.
I'd love to, if we could. You touched on AI, and it's you could have your eyes closed and still see something about
Mm.
AI in the news or people talking about it. And it's a massive thing. What's it doing to transform your business?
So let's see. For example, instead of now, so just going back to the book process for a moment.
Yeah.
The book process requires you to, of course, outline the book, which usually would take me a week or two. Now I'm using AI to outline the book. It's taking me about half an hour, and I'm getting almost the same result. I did a
Wow.
test actually. Just I did a test where I outlined a book. It took me a couple of days, like to get all the details and everything. I did it all manually by hand, you know, and then I used AI and I asked AI to, I think I used ChatGPT and I still use it every day for this. I gave ChatGPT a few details on the book. It came up with an outline in about 5 minutes. When I compared the two outlines, they were about 80 or 90% similar. Like it was really an interesting test. And I
It's
realized,
amazing.
okay, so then I created a system for doing my outlines with ChatGPT. And there's other AI software that can do it, but
Yeah.
it just does such a fantastic job of it. Now you do have to customize it because you can't read your mind and it can't create stories and, you know, the anecdotes and those things. But the thing is, it just saved me weeks and weeks and months of time creating outlines. So that's only one part of the process. The other part of the process is the editing. I'm not saying that people shouldn't hire editors, but I'm working with an AI software now where it's actually
Pretty good.
I'm just going to be bold and say it's taking the place of my editor. Like
Yeah.
it's that good,
Wow.
and it's not ChatGPT. People are using it for ChatGPT for that. I'm not using it for editing. It's a different software, but so that's the thing is like I'll find this material, I'll test it with a couple of books, put it in the marketplace, and if I don't get any negative or constructive feedback, it's like okay, that could be a good sign, and then I'll just keep going with it. And then you know I'm still, you know, we're still doing a lot of the actual writing for the books, of course,
Of
and
course.
But eventually, who knows? I mean, I think that's something that actually a lot of the writers in the writing community are afraid of, that
It's
the
going to
writing is going
change.
to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like, I'm very future focused. I know that day is coming where it's already here for blog posts,
Oh,
like for
yeah.
blogging and all that. I mean, we're using that for just creating very simple posts that we can use for our website and everything like that. But for the actual book content, I mean, I still enjoy the process of putting the content together, but it is rather time consuming. So,
See, the thing is, even in the last 10 years, I don't remember the last time I've watched a TV or read a newspaper. So we have to
mm,
move with the technological times, don't we?
we certainly do. Yeah. I know a lot of people are afraid of it, and I understand that. But when I discover something new and it's it's making my life better, making my business
Use it.
better, I get really excited about it and I get right into it and I start using it. And, so
I
I don't
always,
know. I think it
I had,
depends what you're using it for. So,
I had this thought, and I've had it
mm,
multiple times since I've seen people coming out with really crappy books, to excuse
mhm,
my French.
mm,
They're rubbish. The writing
yeah,
is clearly not being thought about or reviewed even. Should there
yeah.
be in the future, do you think, a statement on a cover or inside the first page, 80% AI, 80% human written, just so people know what they're looking at?
Yeah. So Amazon actually has some policies in place for that. You do have to put that on the inside of the book,
Oh,
not on
you
the
do?
cover, but yeah. And when you actually go into the back end of their Kindle Direct Publishing platform, they do have a section in there that which they installed about 6 months ago, where you actually have to, have to tell them that yes, you did use the
Disclose?
book. Yeah, you have to disclose everything and what is the software that you use. So,
I didn't know
yeah,
that. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Great
and
feedback.
they're very granular about they'll ask you like, did you use it to just for the outline? Did you use it for writing the book? They want to know all the details. Now, I think the reason for that, they're not trying to catch anybody, like because they know people are using AI for this, no matter what. But I think that on the back end, they're putting together their own software that they're probably going to launch this year, maybe next year. Right now, they're just collecting data to see
Yep.
what people are using,
Yep.
and then they're going to launch something next year. I'm pretty sure of it.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Hmm.
Don't look
Yeah.
away, you'll miss it. Now, you have
Yeah.
two arms to your businesses. You've got Scott Allan Publishing and you've got
Mm.
Scott Allan Books. What's the discerning difference between the two?
Oh, good question. Yeah. The Scott Allan Book site actually is there a Shopify store that we've set up to sell the books directly. So
Right.
that way, it's better for our business to have something, to have another arm where, that's bringing in more income, of course, for the store because we have 100% of the royalties minus the ad spend that we put into it as well. And
Yep.
that's actually a fairly recent store too. It's fairly new, and we're still working on it. But people can actually go there and get the books. Now, the Scott Allan Publishing, the reason I set that up was really for publishers. So I have international contracts with over 20 publishers in other countries.
Hmm.
And so it became so busy that I had to set up a website just so that they could go there to check out the books and then contact us if they want to work with us and, translate the book. So I'm still working on that site. It's live, of course, and everything's on there, but we're always looking for ways to improve it and just make the user experience better for people to go on there and be able to decide which books that they want to introduce into. So for example, like we recently have the contract with like 4 or 5 different India publishers, and self-help books in India are really huge. It's a big market. So they often go to the site, they'll find the books that, the information that they need, and then they'll reach out to us, and that way we can just set up contract, and then they do all the translating and everything like
Oh,
that. So yeah, yeah,
yeah. Wow, that's
but
fantastic. I
yeah.
wonder, as part of the, I guess, the marketing and sales of books, I look at my own first time author experience, and even though I'm giving the book away in many different sort of scenarios, there are other places in which the book is available, and it failed dismally in terms of competing amongst the masses, as it were. What do
Mm.
you do at your publishing group to help people succeed in that respect?
Yeah, so I mean, to help people succeed with that, the oh, sorry, can you reframe the question again?
Look, when you're going to sell your book,
Mm,
you've created
mm,
something with someone. How is it
mm,
that you go about helping them promote it so that they do get in front of their
mm.
best audience?
Yeah, so what we do in that case, and again, I'm always testing the market for the best way to push a book out there for marketing, because marketing is actually the one area of the business where most people struggle with it, right?
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't have a marketing background, but I just learned a lot of this. Getting back to your question about, you know, like the ongoing learning process. That's probably something that I'm like another thing that I'm learning every day is just ways to market the book because it can be very overwhelming. So we really give people, like it all comes back to traffic, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of, and also imposter syndrome. A lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
But we break it down into something that's simple and consistent, right? So, for example, social media, right? So people get really overwhelmed when it comes to social media because they go on there and they don't know where to begin. They don't know what to post. They don't know where to post. And we just give very specific instructions. Like, you have to choose a place where if it's LinkedIn, for example, go to LinkedIn, post once a day, and we'll just give them very specific instructions that they can do every day because you have to test these things for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, before you can start to build your traffic funnel. The same with paid ads. And then we have, like the speaking in the media. Now, not everybody wants to be on podcasts or doing a TED Talks, but mostly because they're afraid of doing it or that's just not their thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually a great way to get in front of your audience because what I found is that there's a big difference between creating a book content and like writing it and then actually speaking about it and teaching it to people. So those are two different skill sets. So I teach people that if you can do both of these, you can become unstoppable, if you get good enough at both the writing and the speaking.
Yeah,
Right.
that's wonderful feedback. Thank you so very much, Scott. Now, I know that this is a great segue into a book that you'd previously written. So, how important is it to do the hard things first, do you think?
Yeah, it's really important because, well, I came across, I wrote that book because at the time I was really struggling with chronic procrastination, which to be honest has probably been a lifetime struggle. Uh, but it got to the point where in my business, I was coming up against a lot of challenges. And we always have challenges in business, even now. But I was just putting everything off and doing the easy stuff. And the easy stuff was actually like, checking email 10 times a day, because that's easy. You just have to shoot off an email. And if you do enough of that, you feel really productive. So I was getting sucked into all these, bottom funnel activities that were just taking up my time and not producing money, of course, not creating money. So when your time is taken and your money is taken, you don't have a business.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, so I put together do the hard things first because I needed to start doing the things that I was putting off. And what I did is I made a hard list for myself. I went around, went into my computer, went around my house. I made a list of everything that I had been putting off for the last, like whether it was something I was putting off yesterday or the last 6 months. I made a list of all these things. And then I just started doing one thing a day on the list. And I had to do this to prove to myself that I wasn't a procrastinator. I was labeling myself as a procrastinator, but that actually isn't helping anybody. So, rule number one, don't call yourself a procrastinator because you're not. You're just in the behavior of putting things off because it is something that is difficult to do. But that's the thing is like, when you do the difficult thing, just one thing a day, if you can do one thing a day, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but if you have that one thing a day that you can tackle, and you do this every day at the end of the year, imagine how many hard things you just did. And that's the thing, like they all add up, right? I got to the point where I was, yeah, I'm still do this every day. I have like the one hard thing that I need to do. And if I don't get it done, then my job and my business is just going to suffer as a result of that. And I didn't
Yeah.
want that. I wanted to have a successful life, a successful business, but in the end, or like I was getting in my own way. So,
Yeah, of course, great feedback. Now, books are legacies in many respect. They leave a
mm,
trail of the things that you've done. Now, a couple of questions. How many books have you written, and where did your interest in starting to write books come from, do you
yeah,
think?
great question. To date, we launched a new book last week. I think it was number 36 or 37. We got a few more in the pipeline to come out this year. But so we're looking at about 35 to 40 books in 16 languages? Maybe it depends on the book. But
Mhm.
so yeah, been very busy in the last decade putting those together. My passion for publishing, though, I started publishing about probably back in 2012, 2013, when Amazon came out with their self-publishing platform. However, years before that, I had already been working on I would say like my first book. I spent probably 3 or 4 years just writing a lot of content, like from 28 to 2012, I think, with the intention of publishing because that was always my dream. But
Yeah.
the I'll call it the passion. It wasn't, the obsession to actually publish something. It started way back in junior high school when I was actually, I was one of these kids in school where I barely made it through because I was always staring out the window thinking about my next adventure and like, what new identity could I build for myself? And I just have a very active mind and a very active imagination. And even back then, I was creating stories. So actually, I started out as a fiction author. Actually, I mean, I publish mostly nonfiction. I still have fiction books I've written that I haven't published, but I just love fiction. I was always just making up stories and characters and, love movies and everything like that. So all of that came from way back in my childhood when I just was exposed to a lot of that. I was reading like Stephen King books when I was like 10 years
Oh,
old.
wow. The
It
Shining
just,
and stuff.
The Shining, Christine, Pet
Yeah,
Cemetery.
great. Oh,
Yeah.
Christine, she's taking me back
Yeah.
now.
Just loved it. Yeah. But when I did though, I realized like I don't just want to read books. I want to write books. And it was just like an instinct. I just knew like this was it. Like that's the one thing I always wanted to do. So
I know it's like, choosing your favorite child, but is there a favorite book of yours?
well actually I probably just mentioned it. Christine, Pet Cemetery, The Stand are three of my favorite Stephen King books.
No, of your
And
own books.
oh, my own books. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Ooh, good question. So Do the
Hard
Hard
one.
Things First is probably, yeah, it's probably Do the Hard Things First is probably the one that's been the best seller, but it's not my favorite book. It actually,
Okay.
my favorite would be Relaunch Your Life. And the reason for that is because it was written at a time where I was struggling with self sabotage, coming up against a lot of like self-defeating behaviors, and that's actually what the book is about, is how to break those behaviors. So a lot of the material that I create is based on my personal experience, and after I've gone through the experience of tackling this obstacle, I want to write about it because writing about it is actually my way of communicating with the world. Is like, I went through this. Here's a framework for how this could help you as well. And for me, the best way to communicate that is really just in the written word and publishing something on it. So but the reason that's one of my favorite books, I think, is because it was the book that I had written the year my father passed away, and so he
Mhm.
was he was always asking me, "How's that book coming? How's that book coming?" And it was probably my second or third book at the time, but it was actually the one book that really launched everything because it did really well in the marketplace and it took off and people really liked it. So it's always just been kind of like, I
The
don't know if
one.
it's my baby, but it was one of those books where I have an emotional connection to it.
Yeah, thank you again for the feedback. I'm absolutely loving this call now. I think
Mm.
I know the answer, but you've talked about the obsolescence almost of editors, and I'm
Mm.
wondering, is that the same for publishers? And are you going self-published? What's your preferences there?
Yeah, I mean, I self-publish all of my own books, but I do have like a lot of the publishers that we have international deals with, like they usually want to get the new books right away as soon as they're published. Not every country, but as soon as we publish a book, and a publisher in India or Korea or in Japan, we have a publisher here as well, and they've published a few titles as well. They're a little bit slower to publish them. It takes them a while to get it into the marketplace, but they do sell a lot of books, though. That's really important. So it depends on the country. Now, I do actually publish the books now. We've got a bunch of books coming out in German. We've been working on the translations for the last 9 months or so.
Yep.
And but that's the thing is like, yeah, I will self-publish it, but the only reason is I just want to get it out into the marketplace. I don't want to wait to find a publisher to go through the whole, wait for them to publish it. I'm like, I
Got to
got
get
this
it
book
out.
ready. We're going to launch it. And then
It's
if they
going.
want it, it's out there. So yeah.
I wonder, when we look at the way a book is constructed, my
Mm,
experience has been that I struggled with knowing when I was at the end of the book. How do you know?
mm. Um, yeah, with reading it or writing it.
No, with writing it as an author.
Mm. Yeah.
Because
Um,
there's no sort of end point. You could just go out of scope in many respects.
You can, yeah. I think for me, like, the question that I always have is, it comes down to the framework, right? So I always have a framework for every book.
Yeah.
And the framework is, that people are going to go through the steps in the framework and the overall, the promise of the book has to be this. So I always identify what the big promises of the book, and that's always the last step, or which say maybe the last chapter. So once I've written that last step in the framework, then it's just a matter of writing the conclusion. So you're right, though. I mean, some books are very long reads. I think I'm going through Robert Greene's book on mastery, and I've had it for years, and it's an amazing book. It's just that it's very dense with the text, right?
Intense.
So yeah, yeah, very dense. So that's not an easy read, but it is a fascinating read, right? So, but I mean, my books are a little shorter than that. They're around maybe 25 to 40,000 words. I have a short book actually on like empower your mornings, right? And the title pretty much says it all. It's just about building your morning routine. So in the book, we walk people through the process of, how to build out your morning routine and what that looks like. And I'll give them 2 or 3 different scenarios they can choose from, and how to build their own morning routine and how to customize it. So,
I find it fascinating the process for constructing a book title. Do you rely on
mm,
AI for that, or is there some creative license that you instill in that?
it's an interesting question because I do use AI to generate ideas for that. But the thing is, like, AI for this has only been around for, I'm going to say, the last year for me since I've been using it.
Yeah,
So for me, the titles always just, there's a science behind the subtitle. That's different. My subtitles are very clear. Like it tells people exactly what the book's about. I do the keyword research as well, so that I'll take those keywords and bake them into the subtitle because that makes them more searchable on Amazon and Google. The subtitle or the title, however, the titles just came to me. I don't know how to
yeah,
explain. It's like do the hard things first. Just came. I don't remember where I got that from, and just like one day it was just there.
makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. The other book I have, Fail Big. The title was just there one day. It's like, yep, that's the title of the book. The subtitle came after I'd written the content, and um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like with titles, it's just one of those things where, sure, you can use AI to come up with the ideas for it, but all the testing I did, I just every time I looked at the titles, I was like, no, that none
Nah,
of it was just they just didn't do it for me,
yeah,
So
they don't have that warmth and that feel, do they? That
mm,
impact. I always think about, the impact that your suite of books must be having on your audience. How does it feel getting positive feedback about your books and what they're doing for people's lives?
it really motivates me. Not that I need motivation, but it really just it put a fire into my belly, so to speak. Whereas it's like when people give you feedback, like this book's changing my life, and I'll actually ask them, what did you like most about the book? Because I want to know, if they like something about the book, maybe that's, we can like bake that into the course or something like that. But it just feels good to know that there are people out there whose, their lives are being changed. Maybe their business is being changed, their mindset's being changed, whatever it is that they're struggling with. I'm helping them to, I'm helping them on the journey.
Move past those
And
hurdles.
yeah. I get constructive feedback as well, and that's good too. I listen to that as well. It's like if someone didn't like something about that, I'd like to know what that is as well, because I'm all about. I've never put out a perfect product, right? It's like it's ready, it's out there. I'll get some feedback. Some of it will be constructive, and I'll take that and I'll just make the product better, and
Go from there.
we just keep moving on. So
So I know that everybody starts at the start. So I'm wondering, because there'd be a lot of aspiring authors who join us on the call, and
mm,
many other types of business owners and the likes. So if they wanted to take the journey as you have and become an author, but they get stuck and frustrated and they decide to stop, what would you say to them at that point where they're going through those, I guess, pains?
yeah. So you're right. Everybody has to start somewhere. And so one of the things that I do is I spend time listening to what other people are talking about. What are they working on? I spend time on Amazon. Just you can kind of get lost, you can take a rabbit trail really and just get lost in what everybody is doing. But I think it's important for you to first of all decide how do you want to help people, right? How do you want to show up for people? What is the one thing that you can do better than anybody else? And maybe other people have told you this as well. And then you just figure out, okay, well, let's use yoga as an example. Okay. So I was working with a client, and she was like, yoga was her thing. She was really good at it. And people were always asking her questions about yoga. So she decided, wow, I'm going to write a book about it. And she did. And then she created a course around it. And then she opened a school around it. And like that just became, first of all, she already loved yoga. She was doing it. And people don't realize that, doesn't, it may depend on how old you are and how much training you've had and how much you're actually learning.
Yeah.
But whatever skill you have, you can turn that into a business, right? Or if it's a skill that you don't have and you want to do this thing, like I was not always a writer and I didn't know how to publish books, but publishing was the skill that I started way back in the day. And I just started to compound one skill into another, into another, into another. Over the years, all of this just accumulated into, yes, being able to call it a business. I used to
Yep.
call it a hobby,
Yeah.
right? But you do have to break it down into like, that is the one question, is like, what's the one thing that I can start with right now? And if there's something that you really want to learn, then I would say like get a course, get a book on it, start learning that thing. But I understand that it's very easy to get distracted these days because there's
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of things vying for our attention. And I struggle with this every day as well, where, my mind can go in 10 different directions. Right. But I think it's really good to take time out every day, if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes to do, you can call it meditation, you can call it
Yep.
creative thinking, but you have to spend time with yourself without the TV on, without your apps on, without your phone on, and just sit there and really think about what it means for you to not so much build a legacy, but how is it that you can help other people? Because here's the thing, is like, you help one person, that person helps five more people, those five people help 20 more people. And you don't realize like the impact of that over the course of like the next year or 5 or 10 years, just because you had an idea to do something, you took action on it, and then you started to build something from that, and then you start teaching it to other people. And that's when we go back to, like, we were talking about Tony Robbins. Well, Tony started learning from Jim Rohn, and then
Hmm.
Tony started, he published his first book way back in the day, but I mean, he started to learn about human behavior. He was just obsessed by that,
Yep.
and very passionate about it. And then 40 years later, I mean, he's still doing that. But look at the impact of like
Oh,
everything he's created, and then there's
worldwide.
dozens of other people the same who have done the same thing, right? So
That's powerful insight. Thanks for sharing.
mm,
Now, obviously, we've talked about the elements of how you can turn a book into a seven-figure business was the opening.
mm.
Does that take consistency, persistence, a system? How do you go about that?
Yeah, there's certainly a level of consistency that comes with that. So thing with me is that I find it really hard to slow down, and that can be a good thing and not so good thing. Sometimes I'm running ahead too far, making too many things, trying to put too many things together, too many projects on the go.
Yeah.
But that's really what lights me up. Now, um, I think the other thing is that when it comes to creating, like going from a six-figure business to a seven-figure business, I wasn't really. I don't know if I was planning for that, but it was just the consistency of showing up every day, working in the business. And there were many days, by the way, when I thought, "Am I really doing the right thing?" That book launch just failed, and back in 2020, by the way, that was a bad year for a lot of people, if you
Mm,
remember back to COVID. But
yeah.
that whole year, I almost packed it in because I had stopped writing, I stopped creating. I was just like a lot of people, stuck at home, kind of, and that just coming out of that was when I created Do the Hard Things First and everything like that. But what I realized is like, you do have to show up for yourself, right? You have to build that trust with yourself, and you have to be willing to stick it out when things are not going very well, because there are going to be many days when they're not. And I realized that if you're just resilient and you can create this this like grit mindset where no matter what happens, I'm going to keep pushing forward, right? That's the most important thing.
That's it, isn't it? Well, look, there's some sage advice, some powerful insights into everything we've talked about thus far. And I know that to go from a six to a seven-figure business, it must take
Mm.
a team of people. How important is it to have good people around you?
You definitely do need a team of people. So I do 90% of the things that I put together, whether like it's covers and the formatting of the book and all those things. I have people that I outsource that to. I do have a virtual assistant, and I'll be bringing on a couple of more people for book production so that we can get more products out into the marketplace, but also so that I can be over here working on other ways to expand the business, which is really what I should be doing instead of doing a lot of like just all over the place doing a lot of different stuff. That's what I think holds a lot of entrepreneurs back, and business people, and even CEOs get sucked into doing some of the the minute day-to-day administration and tax, where we should be outsourcing those things to other people. Like, those can be hard things to let go a lot of the times, but that's the stuff that steals our time away.
The My Future Business audience, and me included as the host, take away
Mm.
some amazing insights, and it's a powerful platform to share your message. And I know that there's going to be some people on the call today, Scott, that want to know
Mm.
more. So a couple of things. Do you have any associated courses or other things like self-learning sort of program approaches?
Yeah, we will be actually currently, no, we had one up. We took it down just because it needed to be restructured, but
Mhm.
I'll be launching the platform in 3 months from now with new courses and everything. We've just spent probably the last 5 years just putting out a lot of content, and now we realize that we've got this content out there. People are asking for the courses and how they can learn at a deeper level. So we've been putting the courses together. They will be available in 3 months, and they'll be able to find them on the scottallanbooks.com, where we have the Shopify store, and the books are selling directly. They can get the courses on there as well as an account on Skool.com. I think Alex Hermosi has
Yes, yes.
he's got, yeah.
Very popular
So
platform, that one.
yeah. But
Yeah.
so anyway, that is coming down the pipeline. And of course, people can always go to Amazon and find the books on there, or they can just go to the website.
So, as we touch on the pinnacle of today's call, which has been an absolute treat for the ears and the eyes,
Mm.
I'm wondering, what's the onboarding process and how do people find you?
Sure. Yeah. So the onboarding process for that, if they want to find us, they can go to scottallanpublishing.com. The onboarding process, are you referring to
If they want to
like
work with you or learn more and that sort of thing, how do they engage with you?
absolutely? Absolutely, yeah. So they can reach out to me at Scott Allan at scottallanpublishing.com. And if they want to work with us, they can just send us a quick email, and we'll have somebody get back to them right away. The onboarding process, I mean, we have, I have a system where I bring people on board, walk them through the playbooks, the onboarding, and then we just start to test them with, probably with like a book project. And my systems for publishing, actually, it's very streamlined. So, you can't miss it. If you follow the steps, anybody can really publish a book, right? So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, if you're on today's call and you've enjoyed what we've touched on, and I say
Mm.
touched on because there's certainly a lot more to learn about publishing and creating amazing books, especially in today's age of technology, then definitely look for the links below this call, no matter where you find them. You're going to be finding Scott Allan Publishing .com and scottallanbooks.com. And with all that being said, Scott, this has been a fantastic call. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you.